right, peace, everybody, and welcome back. I am Steven Zorosco, and this is Talking Politics with Friends. Let me go ahead and put myself on the screen, on the camera. You know, I'm working this ship together. I'm doing this all at once. It is what I love to do, though. But it takes a little time. But, didn't mean to do that. But okay, here we go. So, I am Steven Zorosco. I am your host. This is Talking Politics with Friends. We are live on air on 1230 The Source, both on online radio as well as YouTube, streaming live. So, if you are here and you joined us, thank you for joining us. And actually, because it's a little different, and I'm about to explain to you why it's different, right? So, you know, you're used to seeing me here with my lovely co-hosts, Maria and Dr. Biko, but you know, unfortunately, Dr. Biko is feeling ill. He wasn't able to come in, and Maria, she's actually on a trip. She's, you know, enjoying a little vacation time to start off her summer. So, you know, that was planned. We were ready for that. But of course, you know, whenever we feel sick, you know, it just throws in a little extra challenge. But, you know, we do have our guest here with us, which I am excited about, and I'm looking forward to having a conversation with. And that guest is the one and only Verniss McFarland. Verniss, how you doing?
You know, I'm doing great. I can't complain at all.
Yeah? No complaints?
No complaints. I mean, it is hot outside, but I won't complain about it.
It is hot. Let's go ahead and pull that mic closer to you.
Oh, for sure. For sure. How's that?
That's perfect.
All right. Perfect.
There you go. You got to, there we go.
Okay.
All right. So it is hot outside. We did have quite a rainy 2 weeks, probably. You know, it's 2 weeks of rain. And, you know, now we are feeling the summertime heat. And of course, that means we're going to have humidity. And of course, in Houston and Texas, we're going to have just record heat maybe this year. Who knows? Because it's always like 110 as far as like how it feels outside. But I'm happy to have you here, and the sun is going down.
I'm excited to be here. I know I was supposed to be here, 2-3 weeks ago and had to reschedule, but I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I always like to highlight and open up the conversation before we jump into the political stuff and the politics of everything, by highlighting our guests. The mission statement of this show is to highlight everything that's going on here in Houston, locally, not just like what's going on in politics and what's going on with, like, you know, the news, but what's going on the ground with folks who are actually doing important work that, you know, often just doesn't get the shine that it needs to, and in hopes to like connect everybody with, you know, each other and then like grow it. And one of those practices for this mission statement is to highlight the work that folks are doing. And so I definitely want to highlight the work that you do, and I want for you to speak on the work that you do, and I believe is the Mahogany Project.
Yes.
So please tell us some more about that.
Yes. So I am the founder and executive director of the Mahogany Project, and I have been doing community advocacy work for over 20 years now. The Mahogany Project is a grassroots organization that is focused on creating safe social spaces for Houston's Black, trans, and queer community. And I want to preface and say, I think that's extremely important. I know people are experiencing their own divisiveness within community around how they navigate LGBT people as a whole. But what people should know is this, that Texas is the transgender murder capital of the United States, and has been so for quite some time now. We see more deaths of trans people, and particularly Black trans people here in Texas than any other city, any other state, and this isn't by per capita.
Right.
And then most recently, we have had the murder of two individuals that I know for sure that took place this year. Others that may have taken place that we have not accounted for as of yet, that oftentimes happens. But I do want to point out, within the last 12 weeks, there have been 12 murders of Black trans people. And that's not specifically here in Texas or Houston, but across the country.
Right. And that is unfortunately something that doesn't get as much attention, or from what I also seen, investigation.
Oh,
you know,
certainly.
Like, you know, it's just kind of like, oh, there's another person is dead, and like, you know, it's almost like a case closed right away once they figure it out that it's a trans person.
Yeah.
So do you have the names of the most recent ones in Houston?
I know the most recent people who have passed away in Houston were Persia and Jade. Both of those were black trans women. Jade was found like months later, I believe. Her a bayou, and a couple young children, young adults actually found her near that bayou as they were walking to the corner store.
Yeah, and you know, and that also just makes me think about like the what was it, the past year or so they've been finding bodies by the bayous.
Yeah.
Also, like, you know, I don't know if there's like is a connection.
You better not talk about that. You know, the mayor doesn't want people to talk about this, Stevie. You tread in dangerous waters.
I mean, you know, it's everybody's been seeing it, right? So, you know, we gotta talk about it. And it's funny thing that you bring up the mayor, because now we will be talking about the mayor in the most recent news that happened last week. So I want to catch people up first on what happened. Like last week, we didn't go on air because of the World Cup. And that's, to be specific, is because, you know, NRG Stadium is right here. It's like literally just around the corner, and maybe like a 5-minute, not even, maybe like a 10-minute walk.
Oh, as old people say, it's a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Right, there you go. and so what happened is because this setup that we have, you know, it's based on the network, that the internet, right? You know, the being able to go on YouTube and everything. And because of the World Cup game and all the people that showed up, it just dragged the signal all the way down. So it was just like, oh, we can't go on air. So we had to not go on air last week. But we're back. But now we are faced with the challenge that we're missing our two co-hosts, and we were supposed to have Biko here with us and be able to have this conversation. So because of that, I am going to go ahead and let everybody know that you can actually call in at any time this episode. I'm going to be looking at the phone, and I'm just going to put it on the screen for everybody to see. Like, it's going to be right next to me, and I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that, you know, you can call in. So make sure that, you know, if you want to join the conversation as we start talking about some of the local stuff, the local news that's been going on that I want folks to be aware about. And then also just like, you know, the importance of it. You could join that conversation and we could just chat about politics here, because this is Talking Politics with Friends. So it's like, you know, we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to chime in. And then we'll talk about some of the impacts, because it was a primaries that happened last night in New York. And it's a big deal what happened over there, so we'll be getting into that. So before we continue to the conversation about what's going on in the news, do you have any events or important work that you want to highlight that you're currently, you know, putting out there that folks could support?
I mean, we don't have anything major coming up, but I always take the opportunity just to plug the work of the Mahogany Project in general. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I would plug also that the Mahogany Project is moving, and we are collecting donations, so people can always head over to our website, themahoganyproject.org or tmphdx.org, and donate there. Also, we have some amazing partners that we work with who's having some events coming up, like Stardust Co. is having a Pride Brunch and Munch on 6/28. The Hoochies of Houston are having an event on July 10th. Mm-hmm. And the people over at the Anomaly are actually having an event on this Saturday called Black Like Us, and they're going to have Duran Bernard and some people there. And I think you just have to like test or something like that. So if you're looking for something to do, those are some events that are coming up. You can always check the Mahogany Project website on the events to see all the amazing events that we have come up. Or while you're there, sign up for the newsletter. And that's the easy way to stay up to date of what we have coming up as far as event-wise. But I would say the Mahogany Project is supporting people who need things like over-the-counter birth control for free, or things like Plan B. They can also go to our website and request those items.
Okay, wonderful. I mean, that's important work, so I'm glad that you're able to highlight it and that we're able to share for everybody here to be able to support and be able to just stay connected with. And as far as like the best way to follow y'all, do you prefer Instagram? Like, what's the...
Instagram, definitely follow us on Instagram. People don't, like, literally, I was filling out a grant today, and one of the questions was like, how many followers do you have? People don't understand a follow goes a long way. Like, people want to know that you have the ability to connect and pull people in. So a follow goes a long way. definitely sign up for our newsletter. It's a great way to stay connected with us and us to have a way to stay connected to you. So those are, I would say, our two preferred methods.
Okay, perfect. So now, as far as the news, let's jump into it because I'm actually kind of excited about this because I'm like, there's several factors here, and I don't know how up to date you are on what's going on and the dynamics involved when it comes to the Houston City Controller, Chris Hollins, and his ongoing, I would say, rivalry with Mayor Whitmire. And we'll dive into the details of how that has been building up. But the big news that happened last week that I was excited to talk about is the press conference that he held in response to a Houston Chronicle investigation that was printed out and published about a specific position that was created by Mayor Whitmire for it was like senior financial advisor, right?
For the guy named Brown?
Yeah, Chris Brown, I think.
Yes, this is no relation.
No relation. I mean, all the Chris's Browns out there are not getting a good reputation. So if your last name is Brown and you're going to have a boy, don't name them Chris. You don't want to have that issue. But Chris Brown is the senior financial advisor to Mayor Whitmire, but that is a position that was created for him. It draws a salary of $174,000 a year.
Yep.
And the Houston Chronicle reported that it was able to, because this is public information and you work for the city, so therefore they were able to see how many times has Mr. Brown come into the office, right? Scanned his ID, logged in and all that. And in the past 2 years and a half that this position has been available to him, that he's been working, he's only gone into the building, I think, 16 times.
Right.
2.5 years.
We definitely know it was less than 20.
Less than 20. and as far as his city assigned email, he's only used it like 12 times.
Yep. I think they said 12 or 13 times.
And none of those correspondence involve any other city council or nothing. It was just he's just using it for other things, I guess. They didn't say what it was or who he was messaging. So Chris Hollins is the city controller. This is his job, right? His job is to look at discrepancies and see where or how the money is being used, taxpayer funds, our funds, your funds, and how the city is spending it. And this is a very timely event because we just had the city budget passed that was extremely unpopular with the people, I would say. And that's where Chris Hollins' rivalry with Mayor Whitmire has really been sparking, is because he has not been in any way subtle about how he does not, or at least when it was up for vote, how he does not support this bill, and that he just calls it straight trash. Use social media as a way to create content to inform people about the city budget and why it's trash, and just basically a thorn in Mayor Whitmire's side this whole time with that. And unfortunately, we discussed this in our episode we were here. They did pass it, and it was like a 15-1 vote. And City Council member Edward Pollard was the only one that voted no. And this whole discussion about budgets is very important, especially in this time where we talk about our own personal budgets and how things are being used that is supposed to help us. We have now this Houston Chronicle story breaks out, and it raises a lot of questions about why does this gentleman have this position created for him and doesn't seem like he's really working like that. So what is he doing, right? So that's the investigation part that Chris Hollins now is going to be conducted, because the press conference was to announce that there's going to be a formal investigation into. And the main thing, this is what makes it so interesting, is that he said it in the press conference. It's during an investigation like this, I'm supposed to look into the details and start asking questions to the immediate supervisor. But because this position was created by the mayor is the direct immediate supervisor. So now the question comes up about cooperation. Right. And that's what he was laying down. I expect me and the mayor to be able to work together throughout this investigation. So before we just speculate and all that, I want to get your impression about this, just what you are reading from all this, and just your impression.
So I have a lot of thoughts, and I think my thoughts stem prior to the election of the mayor, noting that Chris was actually running for mayor, and I don't think we have enough conversations around that.
Was he running for mayor?
Yes, so people don't know that, right? So let's talk about it.
I thought he was setting up to run for mayor next year.
Let's talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So originally, Chris was supposed to run for mayor. There was Chris Hollins signs. I've been knowing Chris for quite some time now.
Okay.
There were Chris Hollins signs all across the city. Chris for mayor, Chris Hollins for mayor. Then all of a sudden, there was this push for Sheila Jackson Lee to become mayor. So all of a sudden, all of the signs for Chris Hollins for mayor turned into Chris Hollins for Comptroller signs. That's because Sheila Jackson Lee, who, if you're a Sheila Jackson Lee stan, continue to stand. However, I do believe prior to that, she knew that she had cancer. She was coming down from D.C. because it was probably easier for her to be here. She could have been here closer to the medical center where she can get close, better treatment and things like that.
Right.
And I feel like it was this thing of her building her retirement plan, of her ended career plan. So the next thing on her agenda was to be the mayor of Houston.
Right.
So because that, the Democratic Party of Houston, or Harris County Democrats end up pushing their weight behind her, and Chris end up running from mayor to the comptroller. So I don't think this is just a thing of, and yes, I do think Chris is doing his job, because
that's his job.
That's his job in any role that Chris has had prior to this. Chris has been very proficient in those roles. So we should expect nothing else, right? But I do think a level of this detailing or aha, gotcha moment is because Chris was originally supposed to be the mayor. None of this takes away from what the mayor is doing and is doing is wrong. We also need to call to the attention that the mayor is also somebody who has a $60,000 budget for a podcast that they.
Oh right.
I mean, let's run the list down, right? This is also the person who suspended all construction around the city until the construction was done around their home, right? Right. So what do we expect from a person who has done these type of things, right? This is a person who tried to remove a rainbow sidewalk at 2 o'clock in the morning so he wouldn't have to deal with protesters.
Did he volunteer to do that?
Within a matter of a week.
Yeah, it was like because I remember it was like straight from Abbott, right? That first happened, so they were like battling that, and I mean, we don't know if Abbott told him to do it or he just said, like, you know what, I'm going to just get this done at 2 a.m. So, like, just
I think it was a plan of your own of doing it at 2 a.m. so you wouldn't have to deal with the public, right?
Right.
I have my own thoughts about that sidewalk because what people don't know is that sidewalk was actually donated by part of a community and an organization, and the sidewalk had nothing to do with queer people.
Right.
It was because a biker was hit and killed in the intersection.
Right.
That's why the rainbow sidewalk was actually put there. But outside of that, this is also a person who, when the governor told them what they was going to script $100 million in funds away from the city, that they immediately turned belly up, and there were all of these things that we could have done, right, to appeal this or to prevent this from happening. He was just like, nope, we're going to do what the governor is saying. I don't understand why people expect greatness from this man.
I mean, I could see that because, like, also Chris Hollins in his, what do you call it, rhetoric that's been building up against the mayor, when they were discussing budget at the city hall and all that, he put several clips up about it, and he is saying, like, hey, we've actually been running into a deficit the last 2 years. How long has Mayor Whitmire been mayor? 2 years. So it's like a very specific A to B connection that since you've been in office, you've just been running the budget down to a deficit. Mismanaging funds could be now something that people are like considering, like, what's going on? You're just not good with budget stuff. Maybe you shouldn't be mayor again because, like, it seems like this budget's giving you fits because we were fine-ish before. Now we're 2 years in a deficit. And I think this is the right climate for somebody like Chris Hollins to, like, push Mayor Whitmire into the spotlight for folks to see, like, because right now the appetite for get every type of corrupt behavior out of office is like really at the highest that's ever been. People are having difficulty affording their utilities, their bills, their groceries. The rise of everything's going up, and so the economic populism movement is growing. And you see it from the White House to, like, the state side, and then here's Chris Hollins saying like, here it is right here in Houston as well.
Right.
So while we're considering all these issues about finances, let's make sure that we know that the mayor right now is failing us. So this is an interesting rivalry. I gotta be honest with you.
It is very interesting, and I think one of the things that Chris noted was that he hasn't talked to the mayor outside of any of the meetings in the last 2 years. So when we talk about what does cooperation look like, that plays a lot in my mind, right? Because if I only spend this X amount of time with you in this certain kind of, I can possibly see him being cooperative, but also it's like, who are you?
Right.
I also want to note that when Sylvester Turner was mayor, people were very critical of Sylvester Turner's spending and things like that. And I think that when we look at Black people in leadership, people are very critical about how they handle the dollar, how they handle people emotionalism and things like that. But when it comes to non-Black people, people who are white presenting or are actually white, they have the ability to navigate those same spaces in a very different way, right?
Right.
He's able to, because I do want to be, I want to play fair. One of the things that people noted about Sylvester Turner is that he created this position at Intercontinental for somebody within his cabinet, right? People were very, and I think that was only $50,000 or $60,000 or something like that. And people were very, very critical of that, as they should have been.
And there was rumors about like who this person was, and like why would they get this? Because like the gentleman Chris Brown in question actually is the former city controller. Under Turner. So it's like, he is fully aware of the budget and how things work, the ins and outs. And so for the new mayor to come in and be like, hey, you used to be the controller, even though you didn't win the election, I'm going to make you the financial advisor on my administration. You report directly to me, and we're going to be the ones to decide what happens with the budget. Bypassing the current controller, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't need to listen to this controller. I'm listening to this controller, this advisor. That's messy.
And it goes back into my thing of like Black people who are in these leadership roles not being able to navigate them in the ways that we have elected them to, right? Because we've elected Chris, but here's the mayor saying, I don't care what the people say. I'm going to have somebody who work directly. Well, should we be using the word work if they not showing up to work?
I mean, I mean, the position that he's been assigned to, is he doing the work that we are supposed? There's gonna be basically the two things, the two sides, what the work is that the mayor is gonna tell us that he does, and then the work that he does that the mayor told him to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're probably gonna hear a different one than what he and Mr. Brown agreed to, because like otherwise, for somebody who has discernment and intuition, you're looking at this like, oh, look at the budget. It's terrible. This is supposed to be your financial advisor that helps you with this budget, and we're running a deficit since you've been in office, and you got a city controller that you don't want to work with, and this guy is a former city controller, so he knows about all the ins and outs and where all the money comes in and out.
And the ethical practices that we should be practicing, you're responsible for, right?
Right.
And if this person is supposed to be basically your right-hand person or in your ear about the spending, why aren't they advising you how you're spending the money on your podcast?
Right.
Why, spending to have infrastructure built around your home, or the police officers that sit in front of your house 24 hours a day, right? Why aren't they advising you on those things and what that does to the budget?
What's he worried about? Why you got police officers saying?
You got to have that conversation with him, baby.
And and for me, let's go ahead and start tying it up to and connecting it to what's going on in New York, because I feel like as New York goes, the country is going to start like reflecting and mirroring, because it's already starting to happen. You have Mamdani, who won the mayor, the election, and got the budget balanced.
Correct.
In like a matter of 5 months. Now he's starting to invest back into libraries and all these other spaces, right? Great work that he's doing. And then you have the primaries for the Democrats last night in New York. And every single candidate that he endorsed, who are also Democratic Socialists of America endorsed candidates, just like he was, and he is a Democratic Socialist, they all swept. And most of them pretty much blew out the incumbents. this is not something that's happened before. Like, this is an actual, and what they're referring to is like the Tea Party version of the Democrats. Back when Obama, was president, that first midterms, that the Republicans just started to go more far right on the Tea Party side, and they started taking out all of the establishment Republicans that they had in there. This is starting to now be something that's happening with the Democrats. And also, you have the primary of the D.C. mayor's position. A Democratic Socialist one. I forgot her name, but and so you're seeing this starting to happen on the East Coast, and you're starting to like basically now see how people are hungry for a more of a democratic socialism platform, because it's focusing the most on populism on the economic side and making sure that people have advocacy and also actual healthcare services and education and all these other things that we could discuss on a different point. But what I'm saying now is, because we've had this conversation here in the episodes that we've had in the past already, that Houston is prime to have some type of democratic socialist candidate come in and be like, I want to be your person. The voting power is here. The ability to stave off or just push out any Republican intrusion is here. Like, the voting power can definitely keep Houston blue and Harris County blue, because you just had Abbott, George R. Brown Center for the convention, saying, I'm going to invest, I think he said $250 million to flip Harris County red. So, like, the intention is clear. They want to flip this county and this city red. And now we have an opportunity to see how this starts shaping up with this election, but like in November. But next year, when it comes for the mayor, we see Chris Hollins announce that he's going to run for mayor.
I can see it.
We have an opportunity to see if we have our own Mamdani. I don't know if he's a democratic socialist, but I could see how the budget talk can at least spark and tap into the energy of economic populism and make people be like, well, yeah, let's go with this guy. Because the other thing that's starting to see very common with these candidates that are winning in other spaces, they're young.
Right. Agreed.
They're in their 30s, maybe some of them in their 40s. And, Chris Hollins is a young guy. And I'll be honest with you, he's tall, he's handsome. When it comes to politics,
he's educated.
He has
a beautiful family.
He gives a little Obama-esque energy.
He does.
Like the way he stands there. And also, you can kind of see he knows his stuff.
Didn't he go to Harvard?
I don't know.
I think he went to Harvard.
I don't know. Well, we will have to find out and do a deep dive and learn more about Chris Hollins. But like, I'm excited about the possibilities, because like, if we start to see this happen in New York, and then also like in LA and California, where you have more democratic socialism become like the movement to rid of democratic establishment incumbents, then that's going to reverberate in the policies that we see here. But because now we're focused on local stuff, like, all right, so there's the mayor's position, and that's next year. But this year, the big one to make sure that it's protected is the Harris County judge.
Right.
Leticia Plummer is ready to take that seat in November, because we would expect Harris County to stay blue.
Right.
But we don't know what was going on with all the tactics that Republicans are going to try to use over here. But I feel like people don't understand. Not because they're not capable. It's just it's that big picture, right? They haven't taken a step back to really see what Houston represents, Harris County represents as a whole for the South.
I agree with you.
Not just Texas, but for the South, right? Where you have New York as like the East Coast, diamond over there on that side. You got LA as the West Coast diamond over there, but we got the Gulf Coast, and Houston sits right here, oil capital of the world, right? NASA's here. And then you have the fact that we're like the fourth largest city in the country.
And we have a pretty large port, too.
A pretty large port. So this is a very important moment for us to realize that the big picture is you have the potential to have a black woman who's also Muslim become the Harris County judge. You have already Christian Menifee heading in Congress, and he's gonna win his re-election on this term that he's going to be able to actually have a full term.
Correct.
Who else is who I'm excited about? Oh, he didn't win, but I hope he runs again. Jordan Thomas.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Jordan Thomas. He was focused on like mass transportations, infrastructure stuff, which is important. Like people like say all the time, like it's tough to get around Houston without a car and all these things. And like he's somebody who was in city planning, so he knows and understands this stuff. So it's like for me, he's also another young guy.
What about Stacey Childs, who was the former? She was a part of the school board, and I think she's running in Alma Allen, because Alma Allen is retiring.
Mm-hmm.
She's running for that position, I think. And she used to go to Texas Southern University. She was a
What
lawyer.
position is that?
I actually do not know what Alma Allen position
Okay.
is, but I do know that she's running for Alma Allen's position.
Okay, because where I'm getting at is that like we have an opportunity to see Houston do a 1-2 punch this year, next year in the elections, where, with the Harris County judge position going to Leticia Plummer, and then you have next year with possibly, you could say, Chris Hollins, who runs for mayor and has a successful run, knocks off Whitmire, and becomes a young mayor that now when people say, oh, you're a young mayor of a major city, well, how much of a Mamdani are you? Are you going to, because your budget, so you're looking at the budget all the time, so like how are you going to be able to put things in people's hands to make sure that they're able to like have the resources, the food, the bills, the affordability, all of that?
So I think we are, while we're talking about Chris in a way, or like around like the budgets and things like that, I want to say I know Chris' record from a totally different view. My first like view of Chris is like running as the Harris County clerk doing, or not running as, but being the Harris County clerk doing COVID, right? And having to navigate how we would navigate elections doing COVID, running things like 24-hour.
It was like record setting. And everything.
Which is one of the things that Greg Abbott later revised laws and things.
And that's one thing I'll say. Like if you are making Greg Abbott, a Republican extremist, have to change things around because what you're doing is too effective, you're already on the winning side.
I agree. And that's what I'm saying. For me, it's not about how Chris is handling the budgets now, or his thoughts around the budget as the comptroller. It's how Chris has been like moving from a very innovative lens in politics from the beginning, and which is why our center right now is in Jordan Edwards' district, and while we haven't had any interaction with him on to date, I am a big fan of his work because I like how he, as a young political agent, how he is engaged with community, how his plans are actively working, and he can produce you case studies on how his work is actually impacting the people in his district.
Right. I mean, because at the end of the day, like once you know data and information and know how to disseminate and like be able to communicate that to people, like it is an incredible thing to watch and see how somebody who knows their stuff and can communicate it and also make it so you have confidence that they know how to do their job. It's a game changer.
Right, because you have confidence in them. You can see they have a solid foundation to stand on. And because of that, it provides you the confidence to be like, oh, I can believe in this person. I can work with this person. I can see this person in leadership.
Absolutely. And so I'm excited to see that become more and more of the possibility here for Houston because I also know that when it comes to politics right now in this era, how people have been feeling and what they want, the biggest thing that they want is they want to see fighters.
Correct.
But not just like, oh, you're going to be like, Marjorie Taylor Greene and just throw insults and be like, all that. No, like a fighter where it's like, all right, you could say the things that are sharp, but you could show how your work is sharper.
Agree. I want a fighter, but I want a fighter with a plan. I want a fighter with strategy. I want a fighter who can produce me relevant evidence to be like, this is what matters. This is what's happening in community. This is what works. I do want to note something that we brought up about Leticia Plummer and her election, right? One of the things prior to this has been Harris County Commissioner Court has been 4-1 Republican, right? So it's been 4 Democrats and 1 Republican. And so that has allowed Commissioner Court to do a lot of prominent things in community. And so I do not just want to pass by just the election of Leticia Plummer. I also want to know why the election of Letitia Palmer is increasingly important, because we have had a commissioner of the court that has been 4-1 for what I don't even know.
Since 2018, basically.
Yeah, and so they have been able to do things in a way that has really moved community in Houston and Harris County forward. However, I do have not a concern for Verniss. I think I have a larger concern that may come up with her election, and that is with the things that have happened with Linda Hidalgo. Letitia Plummer being another
another woman,
could be a penalty to her election, and that has nothing to do with her.
And I will be even more concerned for Letitia Plummer because she has like the triple whammy that is going to be like all of Texas Republicans, especially the ones that live in Houston and Harris County, are going to have an aneurysm and go even harder at Letitia Plummer because she is a woman who is black, who is Muslim. And for Lina Hidalgo, who was a woman who was an immigrant and, got her citizenship later on, naturalized and all that, it was already vicious as it was.
Well, yeah.
It's super vicious. And I feel for Lina Hidalgo because I feel like she really fought and continues to fight and push back and been vulnerable and been honest about the effects it's had on her mental health.
Agreed.
Right? She's been like, hey, I have to step back. Right? Because you could say and sit there and watch and like, what do you call that, armchair quarterback and be like, well, we need somebody who can handle the pressure. All right, so you're admitting that wouldn't have been you. You're admitting that wouldn't have been you because otherwise you would have ran for office yourself and handled all that and do all that. But also, just because that's the reality of the business of politics doesn't mean that that's the way it should be. And the fact that we actually had somebody, or could still have somebody, who broke barriers and records when it comes to just being Harris County judge.
Correct.
Because that was our Harris County judge through COVID.
And other people looked at how other cities, other states looked at how she handled COVID, and they used those protocols, right? Which is a huge reason why people did not like her.
Right. And so they came at her from every angle that they could when we had that fake Democrat Kim Og as district attorney going after Lina Hidalgo legally and going after anybody in her team for, I forgot what the lawsuit was and everything or the charges. They threw everything at her because believe me, if they really had something that they could have like removed her, they would have done that a long time ago.
Most definitely, which has been like the goal for years to get her removed from that seat. And I also want to know, she deserves so much grace as a person who's like telling, I'm doing such hard work. And we also need to look at the times in which she's doing this work. Like she's doing very powerful work within the time, within like the resources that she have available. But also I'm being vulnerable, telling you about my mental health and how my mental health is like extremely bad right now and why I need to step away. In a state that ranks like within the bottom 3 for mental health.
Right. And I mean, and we're talking about she's doing this during the rise of, I'm claiming it as what we call that, the last cry of the white supremacy, the last little, we're going to try to do, you know what I mean? They are desperate and she received the worst of it, right?
I agree.
And to be able to like do that with the vulnerability and the grace of just saying like, hey, this is where I'm at right now and this is what I'm going through, I need a break, then I'm gonna come back. She still won re-election when she had to go again, and then she's stepping down, I'm saying gracefully, because like, hey, I did my job, I'm stepping away, I did what I could, I did the best, and she did a great job.
Agreed.
I feel like she did. And like, we're talking about like history, like we have to like, we're gonna have to look back at this and write about it. And like, Lina Hidalgo was the Harris County judge, youngest Harris County judge, for 2 terms, got a lot done through COVID, and got to step down and say like, I'm done here, and like pass the chair over to Letitia Plummer. And I feel like at that point, part of like the mission statement of all this is like, we have to, be engaged to support the people who are going to be fighting for us, because I believe that Letitia Plummer wants to fight for us.
I knew 2 things. I knew Linda Hidalgo was a real one when I was in the barbershop and the men in the barbershop was talking about how much they loved her and like hate that she's stepping down, and like these aren't the kind of guys that are like I hear and listen to the kind of stuff that goes on in the barbershop. I kind of shrink and ick when I go in the barber. I can't wait to get out.
Right.
So to hear this coming out of their mouth was like, oh, like y'all know, like y'all know who Linda Hidalgo. This how y'all feel about her work. Like that was like very like eye opening. And when I read 170 Days, where Kamala Harris talks about her run for presidency, Linda Hidalgo was one of the people that she really wanted to talk to as she built out her campaign. She named Linda Hidalgo, Sheila Jackson Lee, Jasmine Crockett as like people who was instrumental in those starting processes of her running for this momental like position of the country, right?
Absolutely.
And so if this woman in the state of Texas, in Harris County, has this much impact on this woman who's running for the largest office in the country,
I mean, what more props do you want to like receive in that type of compliment, right? That acknowledgement. Because I also wonder, you know, for those people who don't know, like Linda Hidalgo started out as an activist. She was an activist, and I met her as an activist early on when I started out. Like we were in the same spaces, we were at the same rallies, and like we had like passed each other a few times, talked and like all that. And, you know, once, like, she ran for office and I saw, oh, Lena's running, like, great. And then, you know, I got to vote for her. And then next thing you know, like, oh, she won. Like, and it was momentous because that's the same election where the 18 benches of judges.
The black women all won.
All the black women won. And I know that's when Greg Abbott had the biggest fit because, like, it was like a 1-2 punch. 2016, like, all the Republicans got taken out of Houston and Harris County from major offices, right? 2018, Linda Hidalgo takes the most important position of the entire space, even more than the mayor, I would say, because Harris County, what's the people didn't realize the commissioners court? What's their function? They handle the money, the budget. That's
the
all these politicians care about.
To go to them for stuff that they need. They're supposed to go to the comptroller. It's like.
Exactly.
It's they're there for checks and balances.
Exactly. So when Linda Hidalgo wins this chair, she didn't just win it from another Democrat. It was the incumbent. It was a Republican. I forgot his name. Who cares, right?
Right.
Because he's a footnote into her story that now is like record breaking and important to like know that, you know, why is it at this point in stage in U.S. history and Texas history in the South for a woman like her to win and then have this opportunity to pass it on. You know, Greg Abbott is targeting Harris County specifically because of that. And I always feel like Houston doesn't get as much shine and attention around the country when it comes to what's going on politically, because it's like if you talk about Houston too loudly and what's going on in here, it may inspire other southern cities to be like, oh, we could really turn up like that in the South? Like, yes, you can. And we should.
So I have a thought around it, or I would like to like pick your brain on this. Could it be that historically Harris County has been blue, and because Harris County has been blue, that people go, what is the big deal? Because when people often ask me about it, it is referred to of the fact that we live inside of this blue bubble. And so because we live inside of this blue bubble, then everything must be great. We don't have these larger issues that the broader Texas have because we live within this blue bubble. Minding you, Texas has been Republican for what, almost 30 years now?
I would say, and my criticisms that I had about Houston when it comes to the politicians is that it was really more of a appearance than reality. Like the way that people say rhino and dinos, like Republican in name only, Democrat in name only. Like, first of all, when it comes to the mayor of Houston, that position, that's a nonpartisan race. Like, you don't have to have one Republican and one Democrat. You can run and you don't have to state your party affiliation, right? I think they should change that. I think it should be one Republican, one Democrat, do it in the primaries, and let's see what's going on. Because, like, that blending of, like, ideologies, political ideologies, I think it makes it so people don't realize what's going on. Because my criticisms of like people in the past, like Sheila Jackson Lee, especially Sylvester Turner, is like y'all cooperate and work with Republicans in Texas too much.
Agree.
Like y'all rub shoulders too much.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that I remember seeing those pictures of Mayor Turner sitting next to Governor Abbott, just laughing and cackling and all that. When meanwhile Trump just got into office and he's starting to like put Muslim bans and like what was the other thing? We're gonna target sanctuary cities and all that. Like you should be pushing back against Trump. And back then, 10 years ago, they didn't even say the name Trump. They didn't want to say Trump. It was like, it's two separate things. Let's pretend that's not going on and just focus on Houston. But like by now we realize Greg Abbott is Trump's guy. So you over there,
and they're very vocal about it.
Very vocal about it, and you over there cackling with Trump's guy when all this stuff is starting to happen, all this targeting is starting to happen, right? And so for me, like my thing about Texas and Houston, Harris County always being blue and is a blue bubble, it was like a fake blue bubble. Because it will be blue for the appearance of it, but then like the way that they cooperate or collaborate with, just the other side of the aisle, it just seemed like it was politics as usual, and Texas is Republican, so therefore Texas is going to set the tone for Houston more than Houston set the tone for Texas.
Agreed.
That's how I got it.
And I think that's what you named is what I think we're navigating right now. And why I say that is basically we have a mayor that has been caught rubbing elbows repeatedly with Republicans, taking money from Republicans, showing up at Republican fundraisers.
Yeah, because that's the thing. He was at what was his the guy with the iPad?
Vance.
No, not Vance. Crawford, the guy with the eye patch, the Republican. I can't remember his name right now, but he also just lost his primary to a more extreme Republican. But like Whitmire got voted off the Democratic Party.
Right, he can no longer run as a Democrat
in
Harris County.
In Harris County, yeah. Dan Crenshaw, that's the guy. He was at his fundraiser, and it's like, why are you over there? Like, what's going on? Why are you even like in this capacity with this gentleman? And it's because that's why I would say like, yeah, really just Republicans. So like, I think that is an interesting conversation to include with what's going on nationally, and especially in New York, where it's like Democrats are being pushed out for Democratic Socialists. And part of that dynamic is the fact that y'all really not fighting these Republicans. So how does it look like here in Houston and Harris County, where it is a Republican state? Well, you have to put up a fight. And so Democratic Socialists will put up that fight and knock out the Democratic incumbent, and then be ready to fight the Republicans that need to be fought. So I feel like that's like the dynamic that I'm seeing shape up, that I'm hopeful for, and that I'm hoping that people are paying attention to, so that way, when those fights get to its most intense, like we're all ready to support.
I agree. And I think we are living in very crucial times. I think it's very important to know, like, people like Jasmine Crockett, I think what she won her original campaign by one vote. And when you talk about Linda Hidalgo, I think it's important, like, oftentimes we see these people who run these very small campaigns and they don't win, right? Linda Hidalgo is an example to those individuals and the people out there to continue to run, to continue to fight for community. If this individual can move from local community, from grassroots advocacy into policy, in becoming one of the, like you said, I think her role was more instrumental than like the mayor, even going back to that piece about COVID, right? She got to set the standards for COVID protocols here. She got to decide when it's a lockdown. She got to decide what those things look like. Not the mayor. The mayor couldn't tell us, hey, it was her.
Right. And I want to add, because I have a comment here in our YouTube page. It said that Lina Hidalgo was a benefactor of straight ticket voting for the first time, like for when she won. And after that, they changed the rules. I couldn't see the rest of it. But yes, she did benefit from straight ticket voting, but like also because Harris County and Houston was becoming more and more active with the voting turnout, well, they were not voting for the Republicans, so whoever the Democrat was going to win. So she was a Democrat. Now the fact that she won the primary was the big surprise. Like, there's no straight ticket vote. It's a Democratic primary. So people looked at the options and saw Lina
And we
Hidalgo
picked her.
and said, hey, we want her to represent the Democratic Party. And I remember, because that position of the Harris County judge was held for so long by this Republican, that they used to look at it as like, and they were looking at it during that race, well, it doesn't matter because the Democrats are going to lose against the Republican. That's the incumbent for I don't know how many years. Harris County judge has not been a Democrat in a long time. So they didn't look at her as an actual viable winner. And when she won, I remember seeing Sheila Jackson Lee show up to the victory party. She was not smiling.
I can believe it.
She was not smiling because nobody thought Lina Hidalgo was going to win.
I just want to chime in on that comment, right? Whether she won on straight down ballot voting or not is besides the point, right? Mm-hmm. The point, the voting process is set up where essentially you send your strongest gladiator, we send our strongest gladiator, and make the best person win. It's not our fault that whomever didn't have a strong gladiator on that day to send to represent them.
Right, exactly. And if your gladiator wasn't stronger than mine, then like that's how democracy goes.
That's
right?
how it works.
So like let's just go ahead and accept that as a fact, because like I think after that straight ticket voting in 2018, Greg Abbott just went ahead and like got rid of straight ticket voting,
and then she won her election after that,
and then she won again.
So why is that even a fact?
This is no longer a fact. I just want to tell people, listen, if you're enjoying this conversation, please call. The lines are open now. You see it on the screen, 713-668-1230, the source. Me and Verniss could do this for the full episode, but if you want to chime in, I will put you on air. If you disagree or agree, we could talk about it, because that's the whole point of this, is to have our conversations, be able to at least get us to the point where we agree with the fact that this engagement that we're starting to really see from people as far as just politics needs to continue to grow, especially here in Houston. So please, 713-668-1230, you are welcome to call and join in, and we'll put you on live and we'll discuss. So, going back to the issues with just the budget and everything, we're looking at a huge turnout this year with the voting, because like the biggest motivator for voter turnout is, unfortunately, is hatred, and also just like justice, but like people really hate Trump.
Correct.
And that has spilled over towards Republicans, and I feel like that right there is something that might sustain itself for the next like 10 years, because the trust in Republicans has been lost. Oh, we got a call. Let me see what's going on over here. All right. We're just going to put you straight through. "1230 The Source." You're on. Who am I speaking to?
This is Lydia. Steve, how you doing?
Oh, hi, Miss Lydia. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Listening back from travels, and now getting back on track, on schedule here, and able to listen to you, enjoying the show and your guests.
Yes.
And Lina Hidalgo is talking about. I totally agree with you about Harris County, Houston being a blue bubble in a red state, and I don't know. And I'm feeling that because I remember was young, but remember when Ann Richards was governor.
Okay,
right?
I don't.
I'm sorry?
I don't.
You don't?
I was extremely young.
Yeah.
So you are educated. You're educating us on this.
I was too, but I do remember her because being a governor of Texas and a woman, it was just a very iconic time.
Right.
And she, but I would say that since during that time, she was able to cross over because she did build coalitions and cooperate with the good old boy network. She had to.
She did.
Especially back then.
In order to be able to have that role and to get things done. And I would say my interpretation of that, of those coalitions, and as you talk about Houston politics and people working together now or in the past few years, that dynamic has changed because of the Trump effect, the
Right.
MAGA effect.
Right. Absolutely.
And so you have this difference in mindset, because then it was cooperating, and it's like, okay, we understand in the larger bubble that there are a lot of Republicans on deck here, but we need to work together because we want to benefit all different segments, and that's going to work together for the whole. We're going to be a stronger state by working together in this way. But this is how detrimental the politics has been over the past, in this administration and the other administration. And I believe Texas is a microcosm. It really shows the breakdown, and I think that you could start from there and then work forward to just show folks. And you talk about Mamdani. And I thought about you, Steve, when I saw that last night in the election, and the conversations y'all had. People have been having, but y'all have been having as well, about his brand of politics in New York and how people are gravitating towards it. And my thought, insofar as Jasmine Crockett is concerned, what has happened since then, and what I've been saying, for the past year now going on, is that it's Democratic leadership. And us not, and I believe voters not being able to distinguish the differences now because the politics have changed in the way that I was describing since Ann Richards was governor to now. How it's put. And so with voters not seeing that distinction, okay, Democrats, yes, we got to work with these Republican people, but, we're going to get some things done for our communities. That's not part of the equation anymore. It's an all or none sum game.
Right.
And so what's happening is that you can't present, or you really can't get anything done. You're not going to get anything done with that mindset, which is what I believe a lot of the older Democrats and ones that aren't as smart as they should be, to see that that's the difference, and that's why people are gravitating more towards the Democratic Socialists. That's what you want to call them, because I believe that their socialist programs and have been, libraries are socialist.
Right, absolutely.
Fire stations, just all of these different things that, some hospitals, some people would call them. So there's different parts of our society that people that are socialists, but we know that we need them and they need to function properly in order for our society to work properly. So I believe that as these individuals come to the fore under this Mamdani umbrella, I guess I don't know if I really want to call it that, but under this Democratic Socialist umbrella, I think that that's the distinction that needs to be made for people to get more comfortable with it, to not let them really brand and label these individuals so that Republicans will be, not want to, vote for them. I think we need to change that terminology and that framing so that we can say, hey, it's still Democrats, but they're wanting to lift up these parts of our society that we're calling socialist, but have been there the whole time.
Right.
Because the wealth gap is so large now that we have to fill this in, and we can't do things the way that we did. So I don't know. I just think that these older, the gatekeepers, that's what I call them.
Right.
The gatekeepers that are out there, I think that they need to get on board and understand that they have not been able to move the way they need to move for a long time.
Absolutely.
And do the things, for our community for this reason. So what are your thoughts about that democratic socialist, the framing up of, and how that's kind of panning out here in Texas and in Houston?
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you brought up the history of like just understanding what socialism is not just, the way that it's framed with like, oh, it's like 2 steps away from communism and then it becomes fascist. Like understanding that, FDR was a socialist and what he implemented was the biggest socialist program that we are holding on to. Social security, like it's in the term, right? And, the what you mentioned, hospitals and roads, all these things are socialist policies. Is like you're using your tax dollars for the society that's providing the income for that so it can make their lives easier, period. It should not be any more complicated than that. And I think what you mentioned as far as like all these gatekeepers and folks in the old guard need to get with it, well, they don't really need to get with it because they're getting replaced right now as we speak. So it's like there aren't going to be any more gatekeepers. And I think we brought him up a few times already, and I think it's smart that Obama already started to show himself as open to being a part of this democratic socialist wave. Like he's going to go to New York and spend time with Mamdani and look like he is now open to being more looked at as a democratic socialist, not, I won't say advocate, but collaborator, right? Because Mamdani just showed Obama that he is probably going to be the biggest competition within the party to Obama, because now that you have a slate of candidates that all won from his endorsement, it's like what I think it was a total of 3 major candidates.
3,
so he's 3 for 3. Now, how many endorsements has Obama won lately? He endorsed Kamala.
Well,
right?
And
then
we'll
Biden before that.
We'll see. That was in New York. Now, is that going to work in a purple or even a red district or even in a purple district? We don't know that.
Well, I think that's great that you bring that up, because Michigan right now has a candidate with running for Senate. I think is Al Sayed, and he's a Democratic socialist. And I think the one part that we also are like missing here to add to this equation is the fact that the old guard, the way of doing things, is what got us into this mess in the first place. And we've had 10 years of Trump since he got elected, and we have seen the best punches that the Democratic establishment could throw, and that has been underwhelming. Like 10 years of failing. What, you won one election with Biden, but then you completely just like flopped and fumbled that, right? Like if Biden was not, they were talking about Biden's health way more in advance than people realized that he could have stepped down and said that he was not running for re-election, and they gave Kamala only 170 days.
I don't think I don't think that he stepped down in the short, because people are very vocal like, why isn't he stepping it down? Why isn't he like going ahead and endorsing it? I just think they just played the game too late. They
played the game too late, but they were also really trying to give Biden his legacy of being a 2-term president and all that stuff. But then we saw him walking into like the wrong side of the room and looking confused, and
we basically saw him turn into Mr. Magoo.
Right. And then what happened? That first debate with Trump flopped. Horrible. Looked like he was in need of help, and that's when they made the decision. And the problem is, go ahead.
Democrats are always late on the draw.
Agreed.
And
heavily.
That's why I will tell you with this socialist thing that's being promoted from the grassroots level, I would like to see that name reframed and used in a way like we just talked about, where people can relate to what we're saying when we say socialist.
Right.
And grab onto that.
Right.
Because that's not something that Republicans are offering, and at this point, Democrats aren't offering it in a way that we can, kind of graft onto it and feel comfortable with it. We're framing it in a way that Republicans can do what they do best, which is to take it and call it all kind of other things and frame it up in a way that's adverse to us getting the votes from the people that would benefit the most from it, including a lot of Republicans.
And Republicans are waking up to that too, because that's the success of Mamdani, is that he got Trump voters to vote for him in New York. And that
in New York.
Yes, in New York.
But that's what I'm saying. We need Trump voters vote for us in the middle of the country,
and that's
in the Midwest. But
I believe that's going to happen.
Saying socialist, using socialist terms, and saying socialist, and not calling it, to me, I just think, Steve, and we'll see as this goes on to November. But I just think that somebody needs to take a hold of this. Some marketing person, and you would think from the Obama, I was in Chicago the weekend that the center opened.
Rub it in, why don't you?
These wonderful marketing people, and all of these people that we have, or that Democrats have, I guess, I'm nonpartisan here, that Democrats have, that they would be able to put something together and see these things that we're seeing on the front end. They know it's hospitals and Social Security and this and that. Why call it? I mean, even if you call it socialist, I think we need to figure out a way to frame it up that appeals to everybody.
I think
I have a question.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
So, you were saying that we wanted people to be more educated on social democrats policies and strategies and things like that, right? And so my question to you, and I'm glad that you named that nobody was doing this, Republicans or Democrats, because at first you just said Republicans and I was waiting for you to say Democrats, so I was like, oh, I hope she said everybody. Nevertheless, my point to this is that I spent about 18 months traveling across Houston, across Texas, and other parts of I'm glad you mentioned the Midwest, even California. I was in DC, I was in New York, Atlanta, and I was having conversations with a variety of people. Majority of those conversations were people who did not vote, people who wouldn't be voting, and people who didn't understand why they needed to vote. But one of the critical pieces that I found out when having conversations with these individuals is that we had not explained the voter process correctly to people. So if we have miseducated people on the voter process as a whole, how can we expect people who don't understand the voting process to understand a caveat to that process, right? And what I mean by that is we have explained voting and the voting process to people like we explain it to graduating seniors, right? I mean, going to college to graduating seniors, which is just go, right? Just go to college, just go vote. Right? And so when you just explain stuff to people that way, right, and people do what you tell them to do, and you tell people, well, when you go vote, XYZ is going to happen, and da-da-da-da-da. People expect for rainbows and unicorns to fall out of the sky after they do that, right? And so when those rainbows and those unicorns do not fall out of the sky, people then internalize that as hurt, right? They don't understand that as miseducation. They internalize that as hurt. I'm then hurt by the voter process, right? Because we have also seen the electoral college show us the candidate that we want to win actually not win, right? Because of the electoral college, right? And so these people who then don't understand that or don't understand the voting process are then once again hurt by this process or participating in this process. And so what they decide after being hurt in that process is, well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just not gonna participate anymore.
Right.
And so how do we educate people on this caveat of voting when people do not understand voting as a whole? Because one of me and my best friend thing is always we need to take it back to G-Bill, because if we take things back to Schoolhouse Rock and we actually educate people on the voting process is in its entirely, because in a Democratic or anybody, we could just remove Democratic from it and just say in a social strategy policy around politics, educating people around the process is essentially key, right?
Right.
Because I have also worked in community, and I've come across people who do not know that they can continue to talk to their local representatives after they win. They don't know that they can schedule meetings to go to their office and talk to them. They don't. I work with people and in community with people who don't know that they can actively run for a school board position without having a child in school. So if people don't understand, people don't even understand you could actually try to go to the White House, schedule like a meeting at the White House. Now, it might never happen in your lifetime, but you can do it. But the thing is, people do not know that you can do these things. And so if we have not educated people on the basic foundations of voter policy, how can they understand the nuance or the caveats around it?
Right.
You are so on point. And to that end, I want to say this, Steve, if you get a chance during the broadcast today, there are 2 PSAs, and there's going to be 4, but 2 have been created so far around voting. And one is why we vote and making a plan to vote. And if you could play those 2, I would love for you to play them and get the feedback from you guys on those 2 PSAs. And what else you believe that needs to be communicated, like the gentleman, like the guest just described, because I think it has, again, going back to the gatekeeper, a lot of these things aren't really, publicized and out there and discussed at city council meetings or commissioner board meetings, because I don't think overall people want to hear from the folks in the neighborhood. And, I think people go there, but I don't know how much they're welcoming and how much they put their thoughts and their feelings on the front burner. So anyway, thanks you guys. I appreciate you. And Steve, you're doing a wonderful job. And thank you to your guests tonight.
Thank you so much, Miss Lydia. I appreciate you so much for calling in and giving us plenty to think about as well, because and have a good night. Because when it comes to the education part, yes, that's very important. Let's really be real. Like, one of my favorite things that is clear now, because I used to be on the fence about voting, even though I never missed an election. Like, I used to always think well, maybe it's just so rigged. But then the simple statement of they would not be putting this much effort to stop you from voting if your voting wasn't doing anything.
Because why? That's a lot of wasted energy.
That's a lot of wasted energy. If the game is rigged, then you're going to lose anyway. Why am I going to do all these things to try to stop you? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. So for me, it's there's that. Voting, they're trying to take it away and make it so you don't get to do it because it is doing something. And 2, the education system. We are clearly seeing that over the decades, especially it's been accelerated over this past decade, they've been just completely stripping education from its core to just be a glorified daycare. Pushes kids along, and we're seeing that now with the conversation going around when it comes to the reading, literacy, all these videos
in the bottom of literacy,
and people are reading comprehension, and then they're pushing this AI so hard because they know it's rotting people's brains that they don't think, right?
Let's not forget the $8.4 million that Texas is investing in correcting, the Blue Bonnet curriculum that was heavily Christian influenced.
I saw that. It was heavily Christian influence, and just mostly just gospel and doctrine, and not actual just focusing on the skills sets that you're supposed to develop while you're in school when it comes to critical thinking, time management, retention, comprehension. All these things is now being just wasted mostly because of technology. Now, they have shown studies that countries around the world, they did not introduce technology into their classrooms, and they're performing and overperforming the U.S. The moment we introduced tablets and Chromebooks in the classroom, it was a wrap. There's just... So why am I going on this tangent on education? Because that's a bigger conversation that we need to have. I am going to be inviting educators over so we can have those conversations. The biggest thing is, you mentioned we need to have those outreaches to help people and teach them about why this works this way, how does voting, and then also after they win their election, and how you can make those appointments and how you can be in contact Well, all that requires brains that are, capable of processing and comprehending all this information. So if they're taking away your right to vote and stripping it down for it to be ineffective, and they're also stripping down the education system to be ineffective, is because they want a completely docile population.
And to add to that, they're also stripping down your right to convene, right? Because we are also being limited to the places and spaces that we can also convene as a people.
Yes, and I think that is a perfect way to just highlight and segue to the recent ruling that happened here in Texas. Convictions. I don't know how many of them there were. I think it was like 7, maybe it might have been 10. But there are a group of people who were protesting ICE in the ICE facilities. They all been convicted from 30 to 100 years. 100
That's
years.
insane. To give somebody 100 years for exercising their right to protest.
Right, because from what I understand, nobody got killed.
January 16 definitely didn't happen.
I mean, nobody got killed. All right. Was property destroyed? I'm like, what did they just get convicted for?
100 years is insane.
100 years, and that's the part where you spoke about, like, they're trying to clamp down on being able to gather, be able to convene, be able to do the democratic process of getting together and figuring stuff out as a community, because now they want complete domination. And this is where I was telling you, the word that I was missing was the final throes, right? The final throes of a dying white supremacist system that can't handle all this activity from everybody. And when we say white supremacy, it's not just white versus everybody else, because
black people can hold white supremacist policy, right? Hispanic people, poor
exactly people. And then you also have white supremacy also damages and hurts white people, because white supremacy is a capitalistic structure that upholds the wealth class, right?
Agreed.
And they use that to keep the population fighting over these things. But at the end of the day, these people who are in power, everybody from Elon Musk to Jeff Bezos to Donald Trump to Greg Abbott, they are all aligned on that one ideology, that they are superior than everybody else.
But to me, that's a form of white fragility, right?
Absolutely.
It's white supremacy is dangerous, but compound that with white fragility, and dear God.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it's like, people are educated on this. People are more aware of this. And when we were talking to Miss Lydia, and she mentioned just like, how all this is shifting, it's no longer the days of like Ann Richards and all those, is because we also have a shift in generation. We have the older generation are now transitioning, right? Boomers are now less and less. And we're going to have Gen X being like the seniors of the country. And they're more like conservative than the rest of the younger generation, but they're also less than the younger generation. That's just the rule of thumb.
I also want to add the caveat, because if we talked about this earlier, Stephen, and I do appreciate Miss Lydia, and I wrote it down on my paper. I do appreciate Miss Lydia bringing in Ann Richards, because while I'm a big fan of Cecilia Richards, I do appreciate Ann Richards, because there would be no Cecilia without Ann. Ann Richards was also still a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
And as we named the differences earlier in the conversation around Lina Hidalgo and Letitia Plummer, Ann Richards, she was still a white woman.
She was still a white woman, and
it did give her different privileges,
right,
to navigate political spaces that still women of color wouldn't be privileged to today.
Right. Absolutely. And we're talking about what, the 90s, early 90s?
Yeah, because I had to look it up while she was on the phone. No shade. I was like 4 when Ann Richards got elected. So.
Right. And so it was a different time. The economy was different and culture was different. But we, I have all these theories and things that I want to research and study. But like, first of all, like hovering all above us right now is the historical trend that all empires have an average lifespan of 250 years.
Mm-hmm. And we are on our 250th anniversary.
Exactly. So for me, it's like we're also fighting against historical trends. But can we break the trend? I think so, because we do have, and I don't mean like the empire as far as like, oh, we're going to be able to save America, the United States. I'm talking about when an empire collapses, you imagine it's bad for everybody.
Agreed.
Now, we have the opportunity because of the advancements of social media, the educations, like the level of education is still better than before, as far as
Agreed.
like more people are able to like have those kinds of like comprehension skills to like know
and access higher levels of education.
And access higher levels of education, right? And then, of course, social media has given us the opportunity to organize quick and not know where something strategically, all these things. So I feel like we do have this opportunity that the empire that's going to die right now is the white supremacist empire. But what's going to rise out of that is probably going to be the maybe not the vision that they saw in the back, but like what they call the Rainbow Coalition is the shiny city on the top of the hill. It's not a white supremacist one. It's one that's multicultural, multi-diverse. And this is where I go into like, you know, the what I was fascinated about what's been going on in this country for the past 20 years is that from the moment Barack Obama was elected president, that's when the final throes began. Because they started to clamp down on everything. They're like, oh my God, we got black families on Cheerio commercials, you know, mixed families on this other commercial. And then also, you know, everybody that's breaking records are people who are non-white. And it's like, and then the main person that represents this country, the president, is a black man. So it's like they saw their identity disappearing because they also had those articles coming out that, oh, by 2050, the average American is going to look like this. And it was just like
everybody's going to be mixed.
Everybody's going to be mixed. So, and then the data was coming out that by 2030 or 2035, Texas was supposed to be no longer a majority white population. So they saw this and said,
people went into
we need to shut it all down. And that's what we're experiencing right now. But the problem is, we have the ideologues when it comes to that. Then we have the wealth class that's like, is this what y'all fighting over? We'll give money to y'all for y'all cause so you can continue to uplift us. But the problem is, in uplifting them, everybody in the bottom collapses economically, and then everybody's pissed off about money and not race.
Agree.
So what happens after that? We have what we look at, the possibility of the rise of a new type of empire, but not no empire at all. Like the white supremacist empire dies, but what we have is I'll go back to Rainbow Coalition until I find a better name. But like we have that.
I would say, from my perspective, I'm trying to be hopeful around this, and I say that because at the end of the day, I'm a black trans person living in Texas. Stuff is not easy for black trans people anywhere. And as I mentioned at the top of the you know, the podcast and the stream, is that, you know, 12 murders in 12 weeks, right? I will be honest and say, in the last year, I've lost 3/4 of my organization's funding. Right. So I don't know if this, for all of us, if this means that white, you know, supremacist culture is just going to die off and things is just going to get better, because that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing people die. We're seeing resources being repealed from us. While they're saying that they're going to continue to do the same services and the name doesn't mean anything. Right. Texas Children has been ordered to build a detransitioning clinic for trans people. Why do we need a multi-million-dollar clinic in the ways that they're describing it for less than 1% of a population of people, right? More people regret knee surgery than they actually regret transitioning, right? So if you want to open anything, you should be opening a knee surgery transitioning clinic, right? You know,
which is healthcare,
which is again healthcare, right? And so it's hard for me to stay hopeful in a way when I am seeing, and I'm speaking from a very, very nuanced lens of what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing. So it's hard for me to stay hopeful in those ways with what we are currently experiencing and navigating. Yes, black, trans, queer people, gay people have always survived culture because we're just resilient by nature. Black anything is going to always survive because black people are just resilient by nature. And black people have been taught how to survive with little to nothing. But the realities of this is we will lose people along the way, and I'm not sure if community will be able to recover in the ways, and if we are, how long it will take community recover from this setback, because this 4 year setback could literally set community back 20 years.
Absolutely. And people don't realize how much just pulling funding from certain programs during a 4-year span sets back a cause and what do you call it, a community.
Because I don't want to just label it as a cause, because I also want to recognize the people that the cause support, because people think when you impact just an organization or a nonprofit, then it's just them that you're also impacting the people that we support.
Right. And that's very necessary to understand. We do have a comment here, a question. It's like, what about the threats of secession by Texas politicians? I like this question.
That happens all the time. That happens all the time. A threat from Texas about, like, I literally made a joke with my best friend about that, because my best friend lives in Tennessee, and I literally just made a joke about him with him about that not too long ago, about how, like, that's the greatest threat of Texas. Well, we'll just succeed. We'll just pull.
Right.
If that was the case, why hadn't Texans did it yet?
And also, like, don't threaten me with a good time, because then next thing you know, I'm gonna be like, well, how can Harris County become its own state? Because we are larger than 23 other states, population size. You know, even on the map wise, we're larger physically than other states. Like, all right, Texas, you want us to secede from the U.S.? Well, Harris County wants to secede from Texas,
and I'm just down for a good time, because Texas does not have the infrastructure to survive succeeding. Because think about it, we blink and the grid go down.
Right.
How do you plan on surviving this?
And our grid is independent, right? It's not connected to the rest of the country. So absolutely. So I feel like, that is going to be a possibility, because the threats of secession has always been there whenever Republicans take losses and such, especially in the White House. We have to be prepared for that, just because it could become a real thing with a Republican governor being, it's still in office. Like, I have hope for, Gina Torres?
Oh, the lady who's running from, I was going to bring her up.
Yeah.
Because I saw some recent data that was saying that her, James Tallarico, while they are within like 45, I'm going to say between like the 42 to 45% bracket of like appeal, they're still lagging behind their respective incumbents. And so, going back to that conversation we was having earlier, just how do we inspire those people who are in that gray area, who don't understand the voter process, or who's saying they're not going to vote because maybe Jasmine Crockett didn't win, right? And which I also find interesting, since we're on this topic, how particularly white people are trying to blame Jasmine Crockett for James Tallarico's shortcomings, right? But why would we want this lady who we deem too loud, ghetto, unprofessional, et cetera, to be this voice for this white man who's supposed to be what I want?
Yeah, and we've had this conversation about Jasmine Crockett here, because like this is an existential time, right? And Ken Paxton is just another Trump, is the version of Trump for Texas, with his corruption and scandals and everything. And the logical thing is, don't let him in. And James Tallarico should be the one to go in, just because the overall movement is Republicans need to get out.
Agree.
They're doing now. The reality is, do we have a realistic chance at that? Because he's not really moving the needle when it comes to like the black vote. And will the Democratic Party still benefit from black people showing up and voting? Because at the end of the day, they make that decision for their sense of safety. Like, at the end of the day, I got to vote for this person because this person's just too much of a threat. So it's like, could James Tallarico benefit from a, unenthusiastic vote that they can't count on the entire time? Like, doing it with an attitude, like, you're not speaking to me the whole car ride home, but once we get to the house, you hungry? And then it's like, okay, here's my vote. You know what I mean? Like,
that's how I plan on voting for him. Because no lie, because before you even like came up with that whole scenario, I was literally going to tell you, like, Steven, I saw his like commercial last night where he's walking with this like brown paper grocery bag and he have on his boots, and it looks very, I don't know, it looks very shot in the warehouse. It looks very staged.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like anything about it. And I was just like, girl, this is who I'm voting for. I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it happy, but I'm gonna do it.
Listen, I'll tell you one thing. I voted for Biden and I wasn't happy with it. I voted for Kamala and I wasn't happy with it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's the part where, you know, let's not make these threats make it appealing. Because I've heard some of the commentary about James Tallarico's like non-support from people like, you know, who are black, especially black women, and it's like, all right, express like this disappointment that you have. But please don't encourage people to like turn away at this moment.
That's my issue. Because
this is not if this was like in the bubble, then sure. But this is the movement of the moment. Like, every Republican must go.
Agree.
Every single one of them, and then push the Democrat towards the, you know, policies and agendas that you want, and, you know, then if they do a good job. Because at the end of the day, they're your employee. Treat it that way. Are you doing your job?
And I don't think enough of us are aware of that concept. That these are literally, they are our employee. We are not coworkers. We're not the same. You are definitely our employee.
And so, like, you know, we don't have a choice. Let's go ahead and do that, because like, I do like the idea of James Tallarico winning, turning Texas blue, making Republicans panic, and like burrow more into their extremism, which is going to make everybody else see how extreme they are, and be like, if you are going to have a problem against the whitest milquetoast candidate that the Democrats could prop up, then you obviously have like the delusions of grandeur for your party that nobody is picking up on.
Because he is very much so a boiled chicken cutlet with no salt, no pepper, no seasoning. Just toss it in the water. We're not even washing it. We just tossing it in the water.
And a little raisin in there or something.
They may give it to. He may think that's too spicy.
but you know, so for me is the moment's too important, and so I hope that transfers over to the governorship too. You know, that if we're able to have it out as well, that would be a historic moment. To basically, the Republicans would have to be in the dark room that night of the election, and really reckon with the entire country, including in Texas, just said, get out. You're terrible at this. We don't want you. Go figure it out. Right? I think that is the part that I hope to experience, because it's gotten so bad. What else can you do besides flip some tables? You got to get these guys out of the office. So I'm hoping that that's what turns into the next stage of this movement, because, you know, getting Republicans out, and then as we're starting to see the Democratic Socialists get the establishment Democrats out of their own party, I think we are we're just like in position for quite the political revolution. That's the word. Political revolution.
I'm down for that.
I'm down for that.
I mean, I'm a vote. I'm a vote with I'm a no. I don't know what's gonna happen spirit. I don't know if I'm a vote with a like I'm a all in. Because again, we are in a state that is heavily people don't realize, in between Houston and Dallas there are so many small little cities and towns that is unaccounted for, and those people, while we are talking about how big Houston and Harris County is, we do need to recognize all of the little bitty spaces, all of the nooks and crannies in between these major cities and the people and the populations that exist there, because those are the people who continue to control the outcomes of the state.
Right.
And majority of these people do not look like us. Majority of these people are probably not listening to this. The majority of these people, we will probably never see them in the spaces that we do movement work in, because they're not interested in the work that we do, right? And I think we need to really, really look at how do we activate these people. And I appreciate what you said earlier, but we really need to look at how we activate these people in these spaces who are not voting or not looking to vote. Because you are right. Having these conversations of your discontent with people who are already iffy or don't know, like, one of my favorite things is like I would not say this in mixed company. I would tell you whatever I need to tell you. I would not go out this room and say it in front of somebody I know who may be impressionable or may sway them.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we need them. And just because you feel indifferent or you have an opinion that may differ from the larger part of the community doesn't mean that we need to take someone else's opinions and thoughts and shift them.
I agree with that, and that's the biggest thing. Some conversations are just for in-house, and then we'll take care of the rest. We have another call. All right, let me just go and see it. Oh, they hung up.
Steven, you hung up on them?
No, they hung up. Call back.
I feel like we're on Martin. You know when Martin would be in.
Yeah, let me go ahead and see if this one works here. All right, Martin was in the radio station. All right. Hello, caller.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, what's going on? Who we're speaking to? Is this a cup of coffee?
This is a cup of coffee. I just happened to catch y'all program, and I was getting in from work.
All right, cup of coffee. Well, I don't know how much you got to hear, but tell us what your thoughts are. What's on your mind?
I had a question for you, and it kind of was spurred by your comment about you were hopeful about Tellerico winning. And my question is to you and your guest, and you know, I'm a big fan of Malcolm X, right?
Right.
And his idea about the chickens coming home to roost seems like a lot of, you know, if you ever played any poker or anything, it looks like everybody's pushed their chips in for November.
Right.
And so my question to you is that if you give any consideration to the fact that the Democrats may lose again?
Do I give any consideration? Yes, because I at this point can't be surprised by the way things happen. But the trends, the historical trends, and the data is showing that Republicans are in for a major loss in November. Right? We have all the special elections that have happened since Trump has been into office, since things have been declining. Every Republican has lost against every Democrat in those special elections. And then you're just seeing voter enthusiasm and turnout for Democrats is growing, is higher. Maria did share some numbers the other week that is not as high in Harris County in Texas as it should be, like as far as Democrat voting. So hopefully, you know, for Texas that does pick up. But as far as like the overall picture, I don't see Republicans taking major wins in November. I see them taking a lot of L's, a lot of losses. You already have a lot of people, Republicans from Congress, who decided not to run again or retire. So they know that they're in for a loss. And the way that the war is dragging things out, and the economy and all that, we are potentially a month or less away from a crash, because if this peace deal falls apart because of the complications that we could get into another episode, we are running low on our emergency reserves. And if no other oil shipments come out of the Strait of Hormuz, that means that the market is going to catch up with the stock, like the actual physical stock of oil that we have, and then those prices are going to shoot up. And then all of a sudden, that's going to create a collapse. And you know how it goes. Whoever's president and whoever's the party in power is going to take the blame for it. And in this case, it really is their fault. So I think they're going to take major losses regardless.
Yeah, and is that the sentiment of your guess?
I think I was very vocal on like how I feel about the upcoming election when I said that I think that we've, miseducated people on the voter education process. So I would be removed if I didn't think it was a opportunity for the Democrats to lose again. I think that would defeat the whole point of educating people around the process effectively.
No, I think so. And the voter education is definitely a big part of it. And I think people are motivated because the drama that Trump creates makes people more aware of the politics of the time. So I think people are definitely more engaged now, just because it's a crazy time in politics, Every other day is another story about Trump doing something crazy. If it's not the reflecting pool, it's
because somebody cut a 350-foot slash at the bottom of a concrete pool.
When I ask the question about losing, what I mean is that there is no the numbers don't exist to put President Trump in check. So I'm talking about the Senate and the House.
Oh, well, I mean, he's going to take the losses in the House, and there is, like, right now, probably a very slim but still, potential opportunity that the Democrats also take the Senate, because Suzanne Collins in Maine is looking like she's going to take a loss against Graham Plattner. Of course, we got Tallarico here, and then a couple other ones. So, like, there is an opportunity that the Senate may flip. But if the House flips, that's enough to stop this administration from doing anything, because the House is the one that has the subpoena power. So if the House decides to conduct investigations into Doge, into Epstein, basically it's like the Clinton administration, from what I've learned, basically what happened during Clinton's second term, once the Monica Lewinsky scandal happened and all they did was focus on that, they just like made that the priority is to just have him have to answer questions on that and block everything. So the House is going to be flipped, and that's going to start putting the brakes on Trump on anything he's trying to do. And it's going to have to, all the subpoenas from his administration, it's going to be crazy. You're going to see those, what do you call it, the C-SPAN, the hearings on the news every day. And it's going to be for great entertainment. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News are going to have great ratings. YouTube as well. And Trump is going to hate it, but they're going to love it because it's great for their pockets.
Yeah, but listen, I'm reminded of recent history, and I agree with you. Trump is a very entertaining person, but, you know, withstanding everything you said, he was reelected. I think people shouldn't lose sight of all the effort that was made to not get him elected. Okay, I know it seemed like once upon a time, but consider all the effort that went in after his first term, and then the lapse in time with President Biden and Vice President Harris, and all the trials and impeachments and all that. Yet here he stands, President of the United States of America. So I don't want people to lose sight of that. And then my last question is, let's say that your optimistic scenario works out. You know, how does that translate in the victory for the American people?
Well, I mean, this is why I definitely want to emphasize the importance on the local power, right? Because, yes, the president and Congress are very important to pass legislation that benefits everybody. But that process takes so long that, you know, you could be waiting years for one bill to be passed, especially with this type of Congress we've been having. Now, the local side, that's why I want to always emphasize on who's, you know, running for city council, who is doing what is at City Hall, what's going on with county commissioners, because those are the policies and the investments that we feel like quicker. We see the impact of that. So that's how it's going to happen as far as the American people. Because ask anybody in New York right now how good they're feeling with this mayor. They're feeling great. The budget is balanced. The Knicks just won. Their libraries are opening again. You know what I mean? It was a blizzard, a snow blizzard that hit New York, and Mamdani said, "Well, we're going to pay $75 an hour for y'all to shovel snow. Just sign up here." It filled up quick, and the entire sidewalks were all fixed by the end of the night, and people had money in their pockets. So it's like they felt the impact locally first before the national stuff.
I agree with you that maybe people should stop focusing on Tallarico, but don't they? Aren't you happy with the current administration and the Democrats running the county and the city presently?
Wait, the current administration that's running the county for like the county commissioners court or the city hall?
Aren't those the same? Aren't those people on the same team that you seem to want to win?
Well, I mean, when it comes to like the county commissioners court, like, you know, Rodney Ellis
in
the city, I don't like anybody in the city.
No.
But my point is these people are on the same team that you want to win.
Well, that's where I was mentioning earlier that this whole Democrat in name only is just this weird hazy bubble of like collaborators with Republicans who don't really push back. And I want to see some Democratic socialists run for city council and win. I want to see a mayor that's a Democratic socialist run and win. Just because we understand politics as a binary of just blue versus red doesn't mean that the people representing the blue really is working for my best interest. Especially since we're talking about an establishment that has, you know, created its inner, you know, network of corruption that we're slowly peeling away as we start seeing these democratic socialists win these challenges to start pushing out all of the people that, or the gatekeepers currently, that's the hope, is that I could say, hey, the Democrats finally represented me the way that, I would like to. But that's because these are the only chips that we have. So we have to play with the chips that we have, but not necessarily because I'm happy with them.
Let me ask you this final question then.
Yeah.
And this is a dangerous question based on everything you said. Does anybody on the Republican side give you pause to say, I can support that person?
As of right now, no. I don't know of any Republicans that will get my support. I could say of a Republican that was doing something that I support, and that's Thomas Massie. He was the one that it was in Congress, in the House of Representatives, and helped push for the Epstein files release and been vocal about it. Like, I supported the fact that he was doing that with Ro Khanna out of California, who's a Democrat. But guess what happened to him? Trump endorsed his challenger in the primary, and he lost. So it's like, for me, it's like I am the, I'm not gonna say I'm the representative. I am a representative of the independent vote. And
myself as well.
Right. And so for me, it's like, who's trying to kill me right now and who is doing something that's killing me slowly? That's the only two options I have. Let me go handle, and vote for the person who's killing me slowly and hope that I can stop them from killing me slowly. Because right now,
that's funny.
I wanna get rid of the person who's trying to kill me right now, right?
That is funny. Just lastly, your guest, I'd ask him the same question. Mm-hmm. Does he have anybody on the Republican team that he could see supporting?
I don't, and I don't see these things as like teams, and I think that's like where we have like kind of like went wrong with politics. And also, as I named as at the very top of the hour, and I named most recently as a Black trans person, I don't see anybody within a Republican sphere trying to save my life, creating policies or procedures to protect me, people who exist in ways that I exist. And as I named previously not too long ago, these are also the people who are cutting funding that sustain also my livelihood and the work that I do as an individual. So how can I stand behind somebody that is actively naming that they don't want me to exist? They're creating and voting for policies to erase people who exist like me, while naming these policies as care for the kids. If these same people in these spaces actually cared for kids, there's 5,000 kids missing from Texas's foster care system that nobody knows if they aged out, if the kids are dead, did they run away. So we can't be talking about how we love kids and we want to protect kids at the same time when there's kids are missing and we're not doing anything to find them.
Right. And
listen, thanks guys. I enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you, cup of coffee. Appreciate you calling in as always. Looking forward to the next one. You have a good night.
You too.
And that's the thing is like, I think I feel hopeful and optimistic about people have now moved past the whole Democrat versus Republican and just seeing it black and white like that. They understand the nuances now. I think they've been paying attention enough to kind of see that it's been just, a mixture of just corruption that makes everybody play a part. And we can only really see who's really about it. And it hasn't been brought up in this entire episode. But the biggest thing that has been like at the center of this, I would say, political awakening has been the ethical and moral issue of Gaza and Palestine.
Agreed.
Right? The DNC has not wanted to release the autopsy of the Kamala campaign that, every time they lose a presidential election, both parties, they have what they call a autopsy. They will study and they look at the numbers, who didn't vote, why they didn't vote, they poll and they figure out like what are the issues. They refused to release the study because all over it's been leaked. Was that people were like, well, we don't like the fact that Joe Biden funded a genocide and Kamala Harris wasn't really pushing back against that either. And she even scolded somebody from the podium that was trying to protest for Palestine and, thinking that she's having her powerful moment like I am speaking, but really you're silencing people who are advocating for people who are children who are being killed and bombed, right? And Mamdani was also having that ethical issue being placed in front of him. He didn't have to bring it up because they were bringing it up in the debates and everything when they had the other candidates, what's the first place you're going to go to whenever you become mayor of New York? I'm going to go to Israel, and I'm going to go to Israel. He's like, I'm going to be right here. I'm going to talk to the folks here. And then they hit him with all the anti-Semitic stuff and all that, and he still won. And then you have the Kamala report about Gaza. And this ethical issue has been able to sparse out, like, all right, whether you're Democrat or Republican, we now know we can at least, agree on that, and we could work from there. And, of course, Republicans steadfast, on most of the time, but now they're starting to break from Israel for different reasons, not necessarily because they care about Gaza.
Agree.
But the Democrats and the Democrat socialists are really winning on the ethical issue of like, all right, you talk about all these policies, but tell me about your position about the Gaza genocide. And if they stutter, stumble, or just try to avoid it, like, yeah, well, you're not our person. We'll move on to the next person. And I think that's been a great, what do you call those, moral compasses, right? So yeah, I'm losing my words right now. But
you okay? And as a person who has a strong moral compass and a person who believes in having a moral compass, I think, again, going back to what you're saying about this nuance thing and people not seeing it as Democrats versus Republicans or Republicans versus Democrats or red versus view, for me, I have to look at the issues that are at hand and how they will impact my lives on several different planes, right? And that's not just as a black person, that's as a trans person, that's as a queer person, that's as a person who's actively doing movement work, because as we just discussed, they are arresting and sentencing people who are protesting and doing this type of jail.
Mutual aid is getting RICO charges, all that.
Okay, because then they sue Act Blue, like, so because of that, I have to look at all of the information,
right?
That doesn't mean that I'm out here voting for Republicans, because the likelihood of a Republican, me and a Republican aligning on the things that are important to me and are essential to me and in keeping me to alive is far and in between.
And if they did align, then they wouldn't be a Republican anymore, because the Republican Party would just throw them out. Correct,
right? But I also want to say that I would be a fool not to believe that some of these same people exist within Democratic spaces, right? I would be a fool. This is what we're saying about John Whitmire right now, right? The fact that he was able to maneuver and get this Democratic vote and maneuver in this space as a Democrat while
he's a real Republican.
Exactly, right? And so I would be a fool to believe that he's the only person that exists within that space.
Right.
And so I have to look at the information, which is in my work. We always talk about how it's important for us to educate people on how to vote in a way that best impact my life, which means if you are a person who says I'm a trans ally or a queer ally, the best way that you can show that for me is when you go to the polls to vote in a way that best impacts my life.
Right.
Because if things are better for me by proxy, they'll be better for you.
Right. And that's just an extension of the same understanding that I've told, many people, including my students, is that, Black history is American history, because the civil rights movement is not a black movement. It was a liberationist movement that benefited everybody. Because once they started writing those amendments and passing those legislation, it didn't say, well, amendment, we will allow black people to vote. No, it said everybody will be able to vote. Housing, only black people will be able to. No, everybody benefited
all
race,
from the civil rights
all
movement.
Religion, all. So for me, is like people understand that, and by extension, and this is where people want to tap into their Christianity and their philosophies and ideologies when it comes to that. When like they say Jesus and God, I forget how it goes, but it's just like, you'll be judged by how you handle the least of you, right? Those ones who are supposed to be the least of your community and your society. So in this case, when we look at that hierarchy of our society, we always, obviously, we see black folks always being in the bottom of it, but then below that you have queer folks, trans folks. And so if you are able to protect these communities through these different types of acts of legislation and policies, it's not just going to be just for them. It's going to benefit everybody.
It upholds everybody.
Because the language in the law is going to be stated so that way everybody gets it.
Oh my God. So you brought up something earlier that I think is that I think can really be honed in this conversation in this point, right? And so we talked about Sylvester Turner and Linda Hidalgo around 2016, right? You know what else happened around that time that was very instrumental?
What?
HERO.
The HERO Act.
So HERO went into play, and Hero was talked about and pushed around as a bathroom bill.
Yeah, I remember
and that's how Hero got repealed, because it was said as a bathroom bill, and people were saying, "Oh, men are gonna be in the restrooms with your daughters, and men are gonna be here." The reality was people were just going to go pee wherever they wanted to pee prior to the Hero bill, right? But what Hero actually did, right, it protected people with disabilities, because shortly after Hero was repealed, there was a person in a wheelchair trying to gain access to a club in Midtown who was denied. However, if Hero was still in effect, that would have been against the law to deny that person access of that club. But because we saw something as a tool to advance one group of people, which was not even the case, we sought to repeal that. We sought to tear it down, because the way that, again, going to the education piece, the way that the left was able to educate people around it versus the way that the right was able to educate people around this bill was totally different. Right. And so it's also the conversation that we have around PrEP with people, right? And PrEP and pre-exposure prophylaxis, right? People vote against things in their own interest, right? People may vote against PrEP because pre-exposure prophylaxis, they don't know that that's PrEP, right? They haven't got the abbreviations, right? All the while they're using it, right? And so then when you vote against it and then you can't get it no more, you was like, well, I just voted against, pre-exposure. But girl, that was PrEP that you voted. The same thing that
you got fooled again.
You got fooled again.
Got bamboozled.
Just like the people who always come in about how they were on the Affordable Care Plan, right? But because it was the also described as Obamacare, you were voting against it because you don't like Obama. You was voting against Obamacare, not knowing the whole while the insurance that you were using was of. This is an example how people vote in their own against their own best interest, and how so when we don't educate people, right?
Education, the education portion. Always back to the educators, our educators, to all our educators out there. I love you. We love you. We know it's a hard time out there, and there's not a lot of support around the practice, the career, the profession. And hopefully we're heading towards a revolutionary moment with all the stuff that's going on, that we get to really start saying, like, all right, let's fix the pillars of our community and our society, which is our homes, yes, but our education system, and then our voting, and then our healthcare. Like, these are the pillars of us being able to be healthy, happy, intelligent, functioning human beings that can enjoy our lives. So, like, I'm really hoping that the education piece that we're talking about throughout this show really kind of like hits home, and like we can continue to pick that up. So, Verniss, we talked for almost pretty much 2 hours. The time just flew by, and we're done.
Oh, really? This just took me back to my old podcast days.
Perfect. And that's just like riding the bike. So, before we head out, please give us your information one more time. I put it on the screen right there. Your name is Verniss McFarland. You're a community advocate and with the Mahogany Project.
Yes. People can also follow the Mahogany Project to stay engaged with the work that we're doing in community. You can follow us on everything at the Mahogany Project. On Instagram, we're the Mahogany Project INC. Facebook, you can find us at the Mahogany Project. You can find me on Instagram at VFierce. That's VFEERCE. I spelled it the phonetic way. But you can always connect with me there. And then, stay engaged with us at the Mahogany Project. That's the best way to stay abreast of our work and things like that, and what I'm doing in community and how I'm doing it in community.
And what were the events that you said at the beginning again? One more time, just so people know about what's going on here in Houston.
Yes, you can catch me this Sunday at the Pride Brunch and Munch hosted by Stardust Co. And that's going to be at Sesh Co-working. My cousins and my girlfriends over at Hoochie's in Houston will be having an event on July 10th. And it is Welcome to the Hoochieverse. And then the other Black queer-led organization in Houston who's been doing other amazing work, the Nominally, is also having a Black Like Us festival on this Saturday. Tickets and things like that are, I believe, available all the way up until Friday. So definitely support them and check that out.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And now with that, I want to be able to land this plane and wish you all a good night. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for our callers. We'll be here again next week. Shout out to Dr. Biko. Feel better. We'll see you here next week. Maria, keep enjoying your travels. And when you get back next month, we will be here to pick back up right where we left off. And for everybody watching, this is a true grassroots movement through this work that I'm doing. This is, I saw somebody post Sunnyside cleanup, right? They're doing an amazing job cleaning around Sunnyside, all the dumpings that have been going on. They believe that if they do the work to clean up the communities themselves, take pride in the communities, all you have to do, and this is the part that hit, it's like just bring your skill set and your willingness to help. This is my skill set. These cameras, this video, this audio, these headphones, this microphone, this is what I've done for years. But I am passionate about community, and I want folks to be able to know what's going on in the community all throughout Houston and Harris County, because believe me, we are the most vicious punch that Texas Republicans are afraid of, and this next November is the next biggest swing yet, and it's going to help not just the state but the rest of the country, but in the country, our family, our community, our neighborhoods. That's what we do it. So with that, I am out of here. Verniss, one more time, we're out. You can wave to the camera, tell bye to everybody.
Peace out, people.
All right, and then we are out of here. Bye. I think this is Talking Politics with Friends.